Welcome, welcome. Thank you for sharing your time today. And I will jump in because I do have always a lot to say and not a lot of time to do it. So yeah, I will start to share my screen and you will see my presentation. Well, whew, fabulous. All right. Let's get started. I feel like I've got all my nervous bubbles out the way. Thank you so much for joining me today for one of my first masterclass on the brain bubble. We're looking at all aspects of being neurodivergent with your host, Joanne Hatchard. You may know her from such things as Better Being Me, which I am. That's who it is, me. What we are looking at here when we're looking at neurodivergence, we recognize that it is an umbrella term. It is including, but not exclusive to autism, ADHD, bipolar, Tourette's. There is a wide umbrella of what neurodivergence includes, but the outline is basically our brain think differently than the neurotypicals or the majority rule. If we were all autistic, then it would be those that are not autistic that would be in the neurodivergent. Often what you'll see if you've been diagnosed with dyslexia or dysgraphia and it's not included in the umbrella term, then that can be really aggravating that you don't see your thing under the list. Doesn't mean that it's not in there. Probably means that it's not the focus of the presenter or the person putting it together, but send it through and I can almost guarantee you that they'll never forget to include it again. So please keep chatting and keep expanding on what you believe neurodivergence is. When we are looking at our understanding our neurodivergence, one of the biggest barriers is acceptance. We have statistically higher rates of early deaths, suicidality, putting ourselves in risky behaviors, putting ourselves in risky relationships. And I think the biggest piece in regards to that is the acceptance that our brain is working differently and the willingness to put in the supports. I was like losing my place and here's my support here. Willingness to put in the accommodations that mean we are supported and we are feeling like we can be ourselves. We are hoping to close that barrier between not accepting who we are because we cannot do anything about our brain type. We can nourish it and we can provide the accommodations it needs to flourish. And we are breaking down that barrier that leads us into acceptance. Often when we think about neurodivergence, people think it is just one thing. And if we could fix that just one thing, then everything else will fall into place and everything else will be hunky-dory, no dramas. It is not true. There are many aspects of being neurodivergent. And when you go through a diagnosis process for example, autism, they create three conditions that are in the DSM-5. These are the three things. And if you've got those, then yeah, you qualify for autism. Congratulations, well done. But the reality is those three stem into so many different aspects of your being. And what I hope brain bubbles do is just provide a different way of expanding out those aspects without becoming overwhelming. If we look at where we are at today, and the majority of you are fighting your brain on the daily, but as Simone said, and that there could be in between the two category, which is always understandable because we're never always 100%. We are 100% never just one thing. 100% of the time. That is probably the biggest sweeping statement. But when we literally ask ourselves, am I this all of the time? The answer is no, because we are many things and we are never just one thing at any one time. And fighting your brain on the daily, I'm really hoping that some of the aspects of the brain bubbles help you put the right emphasis in the right space to reduce that fighting and increase the embracing and ready to take on the world, which I like to see some people have responded as. If you've got any questions throughout the time, then please either chuck it in the chat, and my beautiful co-host, Sarah, she's over here on me. Sarah, if you want to say hello, introduce yourself. So Sarah, I met as a fellow presenter at the Spectrum Adventures, and we have been friends ever since because we just dealt with each other. So she will be fielding the questions and interrupting me when I've forgotten to answer any of them. Sarah is an amazing psychologist who has a lot of experiential appointments is all I've got in my head, but she moved from out of the couch and direct to talking into, I think she was saying you were climbing trees with some of your clients, like really getting the body and the movement in so that we can let our mouths do the talking and bypass some of that barriers when we're just intense face-to-face concentration. Sarah, would you like to add anything today?
I just wanted to ask, since I'm helping out, do you want to expand the screen? So the slides, and any questions, shoot them through on the chat, and I'll help Joanne. Yeah, I'll draw attention to those questions so we can have them all answered from Joanne today. So yeah, thank you for having me join you. I'm excited. I listened to this presentation, well, a little bit of this presentation, a glimpse, a trailer of this presentation, and got really excited when Joanne invited me to come today. So I'm a clinical psychologist. I work out of Brisbane. And I, like Joanne said, just to clarify, so sometimes I do sessions in trees and VR sessions and in climbing studios and really wherever a child needs me to be. That's where my dream is to have a whole family session in a tree, but not there yet. Anyway, be Joanne. Love to be here.
Fabulous. And is my screen bigger now? Is that working? Fabulous.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Who am I? I am the owner of Better Being Me, a neurodiverse family therapist. I see clients one-on-one. I see clients as families, and I run a group. I'm a proud neurodivergent woman and a mother to a son who is also neurodivergent. And I'm in a neurodiverse relationship. I am also the creator of the Be Me Completely Embrace Neurodivergence, which is an online program which provides support and reminders that you have an online program. And that supports us going through. That actually expands from the brain bubbles, and each of the brain bubbles is a module within that online program. So why do I do what I do? I remember being in a black hole of despair throughout my life. There's different times where I have fallen into that space, but definitely the biggest hole I fell into was when I became a mother. And just after my son was diagnosed, a lot of the pennies dropped. And I don't want anyone else to experience that lack of knowing, that lack of language to explain what is happening internally when we are overwhelmed, when we are burnt out, when we are in crisis and we lose our language. So my work is to really help you recognize where your strengths are, recognize what stress looks like for you, and what the accommodations are that you can ask for and that you can feel comfortable in expecting to have brought into your world. And this is not a fun place to live, and it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like there is no light at the end of the tunnel. It can feel isolating, and I really want no woman to ever feel like there isn't a place where they can't reach out to. Often I've had people explain to me that they feel like an alien on this planet and that they just don't fit. That can be devastating because it means that you don't feel like you're part of the community. It means that you don't feel like you get to participate. It feels like you might be living your life from the outside looking in and just moving through like a puppet. Life is so much more exciting when you get to experience the joy and the sadness, knowing that you are loved and that you are safe in experiencing all of those emotions, and that there is nothing you can do that will exclude you from this population, that would exclude you from a community just for being you. So that is why I do what I do, because it sucked to be there and I don't want anyone to be there again. So what are the 3 things that keep you in the black hole of despair? The 3 common stories that I hear, and feel free to add to the chat or just unmute and talk to me. The 3 common stories I hear are, who am I behind the mask? If I drop this mask, what shell of a human do I have left? This was my only protector and I am not comfortable in letting it go yet. Or it's a knee-jerk reaction and I can't physically stop it from happening. The other aspect is that, a diagnosis is just the flavor of the month at the moment and I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I call bullshit. I say, get on the fucking bandwagon. We've been excluded from enough research and we have been excluded from enough exploratory spaces where we are looking for a diagnosis, where we are looking for explanations. We have missed years and years of being included in that process. So if you want to jump on that fucking bandwagon, then you get on the damn fucking bandwagon and sing praises. It is absolutely, I don't care how big that bandwagon needs to get, but we all need to be included and we all need to be comfortable if that is true for you. If it is not true for you, then that is fine as well. But please do not exclude your own diagnosis for fear that it is a popped trend. Don't give a shit. Get on the bandwagon. Join, sing loudly.
I'm on the bandwagon.
All right. Thank you. The other aspect is the fear of change, and not just change for the better or change for the worse, but change from just for change's sake. And that can be overwhelming to not be embracing where you are at the moment, but not knowing what the future could be, or not knowing what change would look like should you embrace and accept it. In the next 45 minutes, because yay, I can talk quicker than that, that's all right. We will be looking at the axis and defining the axis of happiness, because everybody needs to know what the axis of happiness is. And we will be fleshing that out so you've got at least a tool to map where you are for the day so that you can provide some language and expressing that internal to the external world. We will be exploring the 7 C's in the brain bubble. It makes me so happy that I got the 7 C's. I stopped at 7 actually. I could have gone forever, but I like the fact that there's 7 C's in my brain bubble. It gets me happy. And at the end, we'll have a chance to map your own brain bubbles. Then you get to plot out where you are on the axis of happiness, what perhaps changes you might need to concentrate on or focus on, and where you might go from there. I also want to highlight, they're all me. Neurodivergent is a lifelong journey. Often we get stuck in romanticizing the past on what could have been had we had an earlier diagnosis. I really want people to remember that even if we were diagnosed early, there were not the structures and support in place that we have now. Yes, there is still a grieving process and you can still mourn what could have been and what choices you might have changed. Leave me smoking like I'm cool. But it is a lifelong journey and we get to change our minds on the spur of the moment and decide that we're embracing it tomorrow, we're embracing it today. The past will always inform us, but we have the opportunity to challenge the future, and it doesn't need to be repetitive. It does not need to be the same every single day. So you're never too late. Where did this information come from? I do like to say it came to me in a dream, but I call bullshit on that. I just say that when I can't actually remember where the hell it came from, because it came from somewhere and I can't quite remember. But it came to me in a dream. It's probably when I was sitting on the floor in tears, wondering what the fuck I'm doing with my life. And I realized that I needed to embrace what I am 100% shit at. I can't just keep shoveling shit up a hill, expecting it to feel good and expecting it to change. So knowing what you are 100% shit at allows you to bring in the accommodation and let them support you getting to the end goal. It doesn't necessarily matter how you get to the end goal. It's just that you're getting to the end goal. I'm 100% shit at housework. And so when it was my role to do the housework, I needed to have a daily schedule and a weekly rhythm and a weekly pattern and a checklist and a constant reminder that this is what I was expecting to perform that day. It didn't always work, but I knew if I missed that week, it'll be okay because I've got next week. Like, make me feel all right. But knowing what you're shit at means that you can provide the accommodations so that you can get to the end goal without it feel like you're just throwing shit up the hill. But I did realize how fabulous I am. I mean, in so many different ways. But connecting the dots and gathering information is one of my happy places. I love research. I love following through the rabbit holes. I love creating connections between research and practicality, applying some of the theories in the world to what that actually looks like and how you can embrace that and rely on that information on the daily, which is hugely beneficial, and it helps my life making sense to the dots connecting and the reasoning why. Yeah, I like doing that. It makes me happy. So these are my brain bubbles. And this is what I did. I created this on this program. And these are the brain bubbles. And we'll go through them in detail throughout the masterclass. But that's what my connection and my dot creating manifested. And it meant that I got to own being completely me and love every moment of it. Before that, I thought I was just shit at a whole bunch of stuff. And while I am shit at a whole bunch of stuff, I'm not shit at everything. I'm not shit 100% of the time, 100% of everything. So embracing that, knowing that you're not 100% shit at 100% of everything means that you are good at something, and we can focus on that and pull that forward and bring that into the light. So in 2018, I launched Better Being Me. And in 2021, I built Be Me Completely. And these are the different aspects of how that has been created. So let's have a look how we can define happiness. Sidetracked in my head. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Timing. Not so much questions, but I just wanted to draw a little bit of attention to the fact that, like, all of the people that I've worked with over the last 10, 15 years, and like hearing what Simone, Terry, and Shrey are saying in the chat, it's really interesting how we do have that internal kind of dialogue that comes up. And sometimes it is difficult to recognize whether or not it's someone else's voice that's shaped in there, or whether or not it's how we actually have a true reflection of that feeling for ourselves. And either way, it's as though we're shit at some things, daily living, and it's as though we're not great at organizing. But let's face it, there's some things that we just don't enjoy doing. And if other people expect to be great at it, then of course there's going to be some backlash. And so it's interesting over time, isn't it? Like how all of that dialogue comes and accumulates in our lives, and then it comes out in those pockets in life. And yes, like getting a clear understanding of where all of that belongs. Placing it can be really helpful. But it's all just about it.
And it is one of the brain bubbles we look at in choices. We flesh out the voices that we have with the streams of consciousness. So we'll get to that. I'll get there. But amazing, yeah. So when you look at the axis of happiness, often what I have seen, and this was true for me as well, is that instead of thinking for me, I was thinking for we. And I became a resource in my life rather than an individual. So we are not thinking of us first. We are like us as in me. In my head, I'm a we. We aren't thinking of our own needs. We are thinking of maybe our families, maybe the room that we're in, their expectations. If we're in like a training seminar and the lights are too bright, we might be thinking of other people's needs rather than us going, I'll just put on my sunglasses and that'll help. So that process of making sure that that as individuals, we are thinking of me, we are thinking of ourselves first rather than the collective, be that your family, be that your work environment, be that your group of friends. And when we are looking at happiness, if we are wanting to embrace our own happiness, then it's the me thinking that is going to get you there quicker than the we thinking. The we thinking often incorporates a whole lot of compromise, and you might find that you've lost yourself along the way. To help support whether or not the we or me thinking is beneficial for you at this point in time, we've got the yay, nay scale in happiness. So often as neurodivergent folk, we get overwhelmed with many questions of, is this right for you? How are you feeling now? And often what comes back with, I don't know. And it's because there are so many competing voices that we have that perhaps we can't tell whether or not we're looking at an immediate answer or we're looking at the scope of the whole, like the big picture, and we can't narrow it down to words of feelings and emotions. I feel like the yay nay has helped circumnavigate that because it either feels good or it feels bad. And we don't need to expand on that anymore. So if we are in the we nay feeling space, we are thinking as a collective rather than as an individual, and we are finding ourselves compromised rather than embracing. So when we are actually aiming for in life is the yay me space, where we are putting our individual needs first and that it is making us happy. When we are hyper focused, we might find ourselves too much in the me space, and that is where some of the aspects you might need to pull along a little bit and move into the we space. But long as we have got the me thinking first, your choices, if they're aiming for the yay me, means that you are able to expand on that space and communicate what it is that you are looking for and really drill down into the yay me space. And we have happiness. And when we look at what we're plotting on that axis of happiness, well, this has just come out of my brain. So there are gaps and there are probably more or less that you can add. But in regards to the brain bubbles that we are mapping out today, we are looking at the 7 C's. Yay. And that makes me we are looking at choices. So choices evolve from your values. We are looking at the big boss voice. When we are talking about those multiple streams of consciousness that come through, who is in charge at that moment in time? Often we might be in survival space, and a survival voice isn't meant to be there long term. They're meant to get you out of trouble and then meant to no longer lead. So if we are looking at the gamut of voices that are coming through, who do you want to be in charge and who is currently in charge at the moment? That's almost a master. It is a masterclass in and of itself, where we flesh out between the narrator, the DJ, the trauma voice, the little girl voice, the free spirit, the big mind. Who do you have in your streams of consciousness? Who's in charge and who do you want to be in charge? When we're looking at the cerebral, this is where we're embracing neurodivergence. Do you have barriers in asking for accommodations? Do you have barriers in accepting your neurodivergence? Where are your barriers and how can we unblock them and put the yay me back into being neurodivergent? When we look at coordination, that is tied into your executive functioning. Executive functioning is a cultural creation. It is set examples and set expectations of what, sorry, my phone is just calling. We'll be turning that up now. That wasn't well planned. That was my executive functioning. What are expectations? Are we meant to be on time every time, all the time? So if you're, for example, in Germany, there is very much the overarching expectation that everything is timed well and timed expected. If you're in Fiji, for example, I don't know about you, but I really struggled to get on board with Fiji time because it was a relaxed, slower space. So you can see when we look at executive functioning, which includes working memory, I have a very poor working memory. Working memory, oh shit, now my working memory is not working. Organizational skills, we look at emotional control. We look at, oh, they're all gone. Anyway, there are about 7 different aspects of executive functioning that we look at. And sorry, that 20 past 1 was good. More interruption. Kilwit's going forward. But when we flesh out these executive functioning, we can highlight what we're really good at and we can highlight what we're absolute poop at. And some of those things are never going to change. My working memory is never going to be improved, but I can guarantee you it gets worse as I get more stressed. If we are resource management and if we're poor at resource management, as in making sure we've got all of the things that we need to be at the place at the time, if you are poor at that, and in year 12, I had somebody buy me a pencil case because I would rock up to class and I wouldn't have anything on me and they'd get really sick and tired of having to lend me a pen all the time. So we might turn up with nothing. We might turn up with the kitchen sink, but there might not be any in between. So if you've got a massive bag that's got absolutely everything in it that can cover every single scenario that you could possibly create in your head, you might have crappy resource management because you can't reasonably decide what should actually go in the bag versus the likelihood of it happening. If we're looking at coping, we're looking at stress behavior. I like to use the Ocean's personality trait that is openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. When we are looking at what is scored highly, often in neurodivergence, we get a lot of high scoring neuroticism. And for me, that is, we can take an idea and map it not just to big picture, but to galactic parallel universe type thinking. And it can be overwhelming to go, all right, this is the right choice, but you need to consider every single one of the rabbit holes to make sure. So you can see how paralysis, like decision paralysis, comes in so very quickly if you've got high neuroticisms in your personality trait, because there is just no one answer that's going to be perfect for every single scenario. And Sarah's got a little recap on executive functioning up there as well. Thank you very much. When we're looking at stress behavior, as we get higher stressed, those high scoring traits come through, and people say that they became explosive or burnt out of nowhere. Reality is there are signs and signals along the way that highlight how stressed you are. And then we move into the calibration. Calibration is how we can reset that nervous system and how we can reset that stress behavior so that we give ourselves a little bit of a buffer to deal with daily life and daily living and the expectations and demands that come with all of that. And the vagus nerve is like the brain to butt nerve. There is not a system that it does not touch. The vagus nerve touches on every system. It transports the chemicals and information from the brain to every part of our system. When we are overwhelmed, the speed at which that information is sent out and received becomes quicker and overwhelming. So when we are resetting our vagus nerve, we are aiming to slow that information down, allow us to give us some processing time, and resetting our space so that we've got a little bit more buffer. My crazy cat lady is around attachment styles. How are we interacting with the relationships that we've got? How are we feeling about ourselves in regards to those relationships that we've got? Do we have high anxiety around addressing our needs? Do we have high avoidance around addressing our needs? And is that something that we can be supported in moving into more acceptance of and into a more secure space? And then we've got the connection, which is not just with self, but also with community. We are pack animals. We thrive when we feel like we belong somewhere. We thrive when we feel like we have community and support. So where are we sitting in that space at the moment? There are all different aspects of being neurodivergent, and they will predominantly be different when comparing yourself to a neurotypical space. So if we can understand these areas for ourselves and bring in that yay me thinking, then you'll find that there is a greater, less of a barrier to acceptance and a more embracing of who you are and your life. And so this me mapped out, you can see that in the cerebral, I'm a lot in the yay me. My choices, I am part of a family, and I often do think about my partner and my son before me. And while that is probably praised and went, oh, look, good idea, let's think about the rest of the family first, it means that my choices have been tainted because I'm not 100% accepting of what I want out of my life and bring that into the conversation. I'm like, maybe I feel like I'm a bit dithery. And cerebral, I'm all about accepting my neurodivergence. I might be a little bit too far on the me and might need to bring some people along the way and share my knowledge and share my understanding a lot more so that I can have a level of playing field, or not so much a level playing field, but just like common understanding in my community. Yeah. And that's often the case when we've got like a family or a larger family, is that our choices get left behind rather than included as part of the family decision making. My coordination, I do rely a lot on external reminders. So there is a lot of the we thinking for me, as in I've got reminders that I put in my calendar, and then I assume everybody else looks at that calendar and has a look at it. So I'm a little bit neutral between the yay and the nay. I'm not actively reminding other people of the things that are in the calendar, which might be beneficial to get everybody on board. So that's just a space to think about as well. My coping mechanisms, I'm very much in the me thinking. I will cocoon at a drop of a hat, and I have a very supportive partner that will allow that to, he'll very heavily point out when I'm being a dick, which is beneficial. It's nice to have a safe circle, to have external safe circles so that other people can highlight when you are getting overwhelmed, when we as neurodivergent folk tend to ignore that internal reminders and messages that we are getting that we are overwhelmed and stressed. So it's good to have a safe circle of people to go, actually, Joe, you're being a bit of a dick. So could we just calm it down a bit? That'd be great. Or do something about it. my calibration, I would like to actively say that I put myself in cocoon more often than I do. But often it's my partner who's sending me off to cocoon and reset my vagus nerve and reset all the things that I need to do to continue on being my awesome self. For my crazy cat lady, I have moved a long way out of the nay we thinking and I would swap between putting my partner first versus putting my son first versus they all hate me. It's been a roller coaster, but all of those things can happen because we're feeling insecure in our relationships and we're feeling avoidant or anxious about certain aspects of ourselves, of our relationships, and how we're connecting to individuals, community, and connection in other ways. So I'm very happy that I've moved a lot further into the yay me space because I can see when my brain is doing extra time and making up stories that perhaps were not very true to start with. And very much looking at the yay me for connection and really starting to expand into the community and expand my connections. And I'm feeling a lot safer in regards to actively doing that as well. Any questions, queries?
No questions, just comments of relatability. It's definitely often the case. I think Valeska raised a point that made me go, that's so true. That there's particular things that help us force executive functioning. And it's great to remind the whole family and everyone else in our lives that it can often be quite forced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Do we have anyone willing to do a map their brain bubble today?
I'm a bit scared, but I'll do it if you want an example.
Yay! Let me make sure I'll just jump out of this one. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll end that poll. And then I'll figure out how to share the right screen. Da-da-da. Beautiful. And we can flesh out what the definitions are and what's included in each space as well if you've got any questions. So I've got my cerebral and choices in the wrong way there. So we'll start with choices.
Which Yep.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, so this is predominantly what sort of voice is in charge? Is that
Yeah.
I got that right?
Yeah. Yep. So it's based on your values and decision making. If your decision making is focusing on a collective rather than you as an individual, then it's along that me-we scale.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling happy or frustrated in those decision makings as well.
I'd say I'm definitely more in the we. I don't listen to probably myself very much. And more towards the nay. So I'm probably in that quadrant down there somewhere.
No.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it does feel like it. And again, some of that is driven by the needs of my family around me as well. What I think they need, I guess, sometimes. So it might not even be true. But yep.
Amazing. And if we're looking at the cerebral, which is about understanding your own neurodivergence and how you're accepting and embracing that space.
So I guess, like I do, and I tell some people, but I'm not outwardly about it. And I probably still force a lot of shoulds on myself about how I should be in business. And I work with an ADHD coach and still struggle every month with the same things over and over. So to me, that's an indication that I'm not embracing it and I'm not leaning into it. Because I just keep butting up against the same problems. So again, I don't think it's very high.
More in the
yeah, I think so.
And do you reckon it's in the we space because you're thinking of the collective rather than you as the individual?
Yeah, probably, to be honest. Like I'm trying, but yeah, there's not much space left for me at the moment. So I'd say that when I do it is, and a lot of it's driven out of, I want my children, I want to embrace it for me, but I think I'm driven a lot by my children as well. Yeah. Very focused on them. Executive functioning. Oh. So it's so funny because I was told I was like organized, all of that for kids. And I realize now I just put in a lot of strategies to support myself, which once kids came along, cannot do that anymore. Yeah, they're not going so well at the moment either.
A little bit more in the we space.
Oh, 100% for everybody else and not much for me. And yeah, I don't, probably maybe up around the line, like, no, actually, about there's good. Yeah. Oh, and the coping, that's not going well either.
And recognizing your stress states and things. Yeah,
I don't recognise it until it's way too late, and I let all my self-care go again to my business, and for my kids, everybody else gets it first, gets what they need. So yeah, probably sitting around there. And I don't know my own sign.
Yeah. And calibration, do you know what you need to do to create buffer for you?
Sometimes, but then I just don't do it. Yeah, there's lots of things I know I need to do for sure, but often don't do them or don't do them till it's way too late.
Yeah. Ditch effect of,
yeah. And when I do, like I do know and I feel great if I'm out working all the time and all of that. So it can be in the yay space, but I'm guessing it's not there really at the moment. Oh, it's not looking so pretty, is it?
That like is a visual representation of aspects which when we don't have a physical, like a visual reflection of, we can ignore.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You can just bypass it because, it's not a tangible thing that we can put our hands on. But when we've got this visual kind of mapping, it's a very tangible thing where you can see, okay, perhaps I need to focus a little bit more on the me and bring more yay in. When we're looking at the crazy cat lady, which is about your relationships and your or avoidant that space.
Oh yeah, I'd say a bit avoidant. So in that, everything's about my kids, to be honest. Even my husband, hello, big one. Yeah, that's probably a bit like really big and put it right in that bottom. Yeah, my husband even like misses out because it's just about the kids and a little bit. Like I still try to socialize a little, but not heaps.
Yeah, it's probably kids first thought. And it can happen. I don't know about your individual situation, but when we are neurodivergent and kids become our hyper-focus, we can filter absolutely everything, every decision that we make through that hyper-focus. So it's not even that the kids, like we're connecting with the kids or anything. It's just that they are our hyper-focus. They're our subject of interest. And so every choice that we make is filtered through them rather than not.
Yeah. Well done. Got me in the nutshell.
It was me and no, sorry. The connection space, it would be hard to suggest that perhaps you're in the yay me. It's
definitely, really interesting, isn't it? So I do connect with people, but it would be a lot, not all, but a lot around the kids as well. So it's in the we a little bit more, but I do some things for myself.
Yeah.
But
I like a little bit more yay.
Yeah, a little bit when I get the chance to do it for sure.
Yeah, but definitely it filters through that space.
Oh my goodness. Yep. Told you I was scared.
I know that can be overwhelming to look at, but at the same time, recognize that it is, like I was saying before, it is hard to quantify a lot of these processes and a lot of these things because there are intangible things and no object permanence. when we are experiencing it, we recognize that it's happening. And then if we're not experiencing it anymore, then we're easily to forget about this process.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So this is what the brain bubbles helps create, that touchstone or touch point that we can actively start making choices or putting through more supports or act that put them back into the yay me vector rather than the nay we.
Yep. Yep. And I just think, yeah, I guess this is what you'd go in further when you investigate this. It's just that how do you start making that change when your time is so pushed already from all the pressures?
Yeah.
To start shifting that focus.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting.
And one of the things that we do in the course, one of the things that we do in the course is that we map out how much free time that you've got. So there is a weekly overview, and we can put in there where your expectations are, where your demands are, how much extra time you've got, if there is any buffer time. But we also map through what you can let go of. You are actually using control as a coping mechanism so that you are the holder of all information and get pissed off when other people don't know all the information. Often it's not been shared from outside of your head, and it's hard to support somebody that doesn't share the information, and it's hard to support a family that relies on one source of information to do like 80% of the work, 95% of the work. So it's about bringing back a lot more balance and moving into the fact that a family is a collective of me rather than me and hierarchy. Like we one bubble that moves as one rather than mum being in charge and moving the whole lot. Yeah. Well, I do want you to remember, and I keep touching the wrong screen, that you are not alone. And the Yellow Ladybug is a prime example of supportive community, especially for those that have got young female autistic folk and neurodivergent folk, that the Yellow Ladybugs is a massive community supporting that space. And Better Being Me is an ever-growing community as well that is supportive and bringing in more understanding, more awareness, removing a lot of shame, and really starting to embrace our neurodivergent and what that means for us. So what do I do now? You know, about my online course. So while the masterclass, I hope that you've got some insights from that as a standalone thing. Yes, there is the Be Me Completely that is starting in October. That does flesh out in detail all of those aspects and provide some step-by-step guidance to how to bring in that change. But I really want, if nothing else, that you get to bring in that access of happiness and start to really map through, is this a yay me or is this a nay we space? But yes, so thank you very much for your time in the masterclass. And we're just about wrapping up. So if you do got any questions, then please yell out now or put them in the chat. You can book in for a 15-minute brain bubble session with me, and we can go through some of the personal circumstances for you. The course starts on the 18th of October. So we've got a fair amount of time between now and then. And I will include the information on the course with the recording for today's session. Yes. Any questions, queries, qualms? Oh, and thank you, Sarah, for helping and encouraging and reminding me to do the thing.
I found heaps of emojis. They're great. The chat's so good. Yeah, there's no direct questions on the chat. So if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask.
Right.
Oh, when does your course start, Joanne? Yeah,
on the 18th of October. And that is a 7-module self-paced thing. And then you get a monthly call for 6 months, a group monthly call for that. to support any of the learning and understanding that has been happening within the modules. Because hopefully there's lots of questions and light bulb moments in that space as well.
So sorry, can I ask? So it's 7-module self-paced, monthly coaching call for how long did you say? Was it 6 months?
6 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have lifetime access. So you can jump in and out of the call throughout the life of the program.
Yeah, cool. That's great. Thank you.
Diagnosis space for ADHD, depending on what you are looking for from the diagnosis. If you wanted to try medication, then you need to see a psychiatrist. If you're wanting just to have a diagnosis and not take medication, then you need to see a psychologist. And I can follow up with some recommendations for diagnosing that process as well. Terry, no problem. Amazing. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen now. Look at the beautiful comments. Everybody's been having a wonderful time. Fabulous. Excellent. Oh, yes, please reach out if you've got any questions. I realize that I will flesh out what executive functioning means. I got to the slide and went, oh, that would be useful information to have. Yeah. Anyway, always good to improve. I'll probably, oh yeah, that's good. I've got one of them as well, which I shall include in my slides. Thank you very much for the feedback. But yes, thank you very much. And I shall see you all when I see you all. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate your time. Powers.
Would you like to end the recording and then we can